look, there is evidence that depression is a lot of different things. It's one term that covers all sorts of different disorders with all sorts of pathways. And there is evidence that one of the functions of antidepressants is anti-inflammatory, and that depression is an inflammatory condition, and that it's associated with autoimmune dysfunction. And so, who knows how prevalent that is? I mean, it's more prevalent than people thought 20 years ago. This science, independent of my opinion and my daughter's opinion, independent of that, there's evidence for autoimmune involvement in the pathophysiology of depression. The degree to which that's a contributor to what degree that contributes to depression in the general population is unknown. I think your best bet in life is to shoulder your suffering and to take responsibility and to move forward. But that doesn't mean that you're not vulnerable on all sorts of fronts. It's just your best tactic. Just because it's your best tactic doesn't mean it will always work. But you don't have a better tactic. So, you know, one of the things we constantly told my daughter was not to ever use her illness as an excuse. Mostly because it would blur the lines between her and the illness. You don't ever want to do that. You know, so we wanted her to be as responsible as she could be, what she had to endure. It was a very difficult thing to figure out. If you have a kid that's sick like that, it's like, well, they don't want to get up to go to school. Well, you probably wouldn't want to get up either if you were like in pain, lots of pain. What do? You say you stay in bed? Or do you say, get the hell up if you can and get out, because the alternative is worse? And so pushed her and encouraged her to bear as much as she could. And I would say that was the right strategy, because she did manage to have as much of a life as she could have under the circumstances. And she's come through all this with her character intact. So, which I think is really quite beyond belief to me, but it still seems to be the case. So it isn't that shouldering your suffering and bearing the responsibility for your life is a panacea, because we're vulnerable to all sorts of things that happen to us that are, in some sense, ultimately uncontrollable. And that's why people die, right? But it doesn't matter in the face of that. There still isn't a better strategy.
Me out of my state.
Yeah, I say, could you pull me out of this alive? Meaning anyone, right?
Exactly.
Or me, can I, right? Where's my body? I'm stuck in my mind. When I get stuck in that, like, that trauma response feedback in my brain, I have no concept of my body at all. I'm completely in my head. And then I say, I'm tired of screaming at the top of my lungs, things I used to do upstairs before I'd come down into the studio with Blood Pop. I'm in the hole, I'm falling down, so down. My name isn't Alice, but I'll keep looking for Wonderland. So it's kind of this, it's this weird experience where I'm going, I'm not sure I'm gonna make it, but I'm gonna try. And that's where the album really begins. And we put it together in this way, but that string arrangement, Chromatica 1, Act 1, it's essentially setting the stage for like a more cinematic experience with this world that is how I make sense of things. How do I make sense of myself when I feel this way? Sense of it by going, this is a mental issue. I radically accept that I have it. And although I feel completely disconnected and offline, I am still going to pursue Wonderland. I'm still going to look for something that I do not have right now. And maybe it is through just simply trying. I think that being brave is hard, but it's synonymous in many ways with trying.